My name is Josh Garrett. I am a guitar player. I also compose music, and I like to teach music, and hence this video today. Hopefully this is the beginning of many videos just providing some educational material for your enjoyment, for your edification. And because really, I believe that God gave us all the gifts that we have, and we have to develop them. We have to be good stewards of them, and we have to share them with people to really help facilitate a more fulfilling life, so to speak. But that's a totally different subject. I want to talk about guitar. Just some brief music history here on guitar. And so from the beginning, okay, stick to the plan. There is the oud from the Middle East period, and it's said that that's where guitar originally came from, because then the lute in Europe came from that, okay, and so in the medieval period there's exploration. I don't know all the instruments that came from these old periods, but from 1150 to 1400, it's a big gap of time, but that's the medieval period, okay. From in the Renaissance, that's when things were really, I think music was really, there's more happening. From 1400 to 1600, you have a composer, John Dowland, who wrote some great repertoire for the lute, the Renaissance lute. And the Renaissance lute is really like the modern guitar, except it has doubled strings. And so instead of this has single strings. I hear E, A, D, G, B, B, E. And it's funny, the Renaissance lute, I think one of them may have been, I think some of them were in E standard, like the modern guitar, except for the G string, that would be an F sharp. So it's slightly different. So it'd be, half step back. So anyway, you have the Renaissance lute, and that's okay. And John Dowland, great composer, and a couple guys who play John Dowland's music very well and have really brought it into the, made it more popular, are guys like Nigel North and Paul Odette. So going on to the Baroque period, we have by the way, there's also the Renaissance guitar, which was 4 strings, sort of almost like a ukulele, but not quite. And so, it's interesting. The Baroque period from 1600 to 1750, you have these other composers like Palestrina, Domenico Scarlatti. You've heard of some of these guys. Buxtehude, who's influenced Johann Sebastian Bach. We're all familiar with him. Vivaldi, he's written lute pieces. So one lute composer, I think he's from the Baroque period, would be Leopold Weiss, Weiss. And so the Baroque period, they have the Baroque guitar. It has 5 courses. The top string is single, and that was used in a lot of accompaniment with strumming. Okay, and so there's also some great music for that. That's like solo repertoire. The tuning for a Baroque guitar is a re-entrant tuning in some cases, where it's a higher string on the bass end, so it's not really a bass string, but it's higher, and then it would go up, back down on the 4th string, going up to the high. So it's different. It's like a ukulele kind of. They have that re-entrant tuning as well, and there's A chords tuning. So on from there, you have the Baroque period on to the Classical period, 1750 to 1830, and that's when guitar was changing even then, more so, and it was moving away from double courses. By the way, in the Renaissance period in Spain, you had the vihuela, which is a double-strung instrument, and that was 6 courses. So that was also very close to the guitar today. And there's some great stuff written for that instrument, like by Fernando Sor, whose 20 etudes and other materials have been, or 20 studies for guitar, they've been used for modern classical guitar instruction. So classical period, and then you have early Romantic period, 1830 to 1860, Romantic period, 1860 to 1920. Around that time, he had changes in guitars. There's one guitar maker, Stauffer, which is really interesting. And other guys, they were like smaller, the bodies were tapered, much thinner. Very interesting construction of those instruments. And so, one thing to mention with strings is, yeah, I already mentioned that they're made with gut, like sheep gut or goat gut. But up until World War II, around the industrial age, at that point, rather, that's when they started making nylon strings for guitar. And that revolutionized plucked instrument, all plucked instruments altogether, really, that were using nylon. And also helped change steel string guitar making, too. Because they were, even with the cittern in the, medieval to Renaissance period, they were using wires for some of those. And there's gittern, there's cittern, different types of, variants there. But in the industrial age, you had nylon, so it would withstand temperature changes, stuff like that, and there wouldn't be as much breakage. And it was really revolutionary technology. And so what we have today is the nylon string guitar, for classical, that is. And what I like to use for strings are from a brand called Aquila. They're made in Italy, Aquila. And they make the Nile gut strings, and that's a nylon gut composite. So it's the closest thing you'll get to gut in a synthetic string. And all the pros that play nylon string instruments that want to sound, they're aware of that brand and that kind of string. It has a softer sound to it, has a nicer touch. In some cases, they're slightly thinner construction, not as bulky, so you can have more control. You can have more precision in your playing. A lot of flamenco guys like to use them. I like them. They just sound great. They look nice too. They just feel good. And so that's pretty much a short rundown. Now with the construction of the guitar, you have these different elements. You have the neck, okay, where you fret your notes and so forth, and that creates a distance that creates the pitch variance, because the longer string you have, the lower the note is. And if you have a thicker string, it allows for more bass, or bassy tone. It's like that, low E. Versus this is the same distance, but yet it's a short, smaller string, and the tension's a little different. So you have it high, it's 1 octave up. So they have the neck, you have the fretboard right here, made with ebony. The body of this guitar is koa. On this is different. This is a Cordoba limited edition 2008 model. It's like a student price guitar. It's around $1,000, but it sounds really good. And what's different about this guitar, and this is another good thing when you're looking for guitars, it's the wood construction. Okay, you have to first of all be aware of the good brands. Okay, do your own homework with that. I just want to talk about the construction, but as an example of good regular metal strung acoustic guitars are like Taylor, Martin. They're a little pricey. I like Taylor. I think they're a little better. There's Gibson, and so on and so forth. Collings and Seagull, all that stuff. So this is koa, which is very different for classical. You're not going to find that. Sometimes you have a cedar top or a spruce top, maple top with a darker wood body. In many cases, cedar or walnut or rosewood. Okay, and that has to do with having good frequency response, and it's a good range, a good spectrum. You want to have good bass, good treble, good mid-range, sound palette there. You don't want to have a big muddy sounding instrument. So the thing is, if you want to have the best sounding, you have to dish out the dough for it. But if you're savvy and if you're with someone that really knows what they're doing, if you've done your homework, you'll be able to find a proper instrument with that'll do the job for you. But it's good to keep in mind, what do you need the guitar for? What do you need? What do you want to do? If you just want to stay at home with it, you just want to write with it, whatever, to have fun, do you need to spend, $4,000 or something? And that's just for that could be a handmade guitar, but to be somewhat mass produced in some cases, even at that price. It depends. Anyway, I don't want to go into territory I'm not too familiar with, but there's some for one man's $4,000 guitar is another man's, tinker toy. I personally don't need a really fancy, really high end instrument, but I do want a good instrument. And anyway, that's enough about that. Different parts. You have the bridge that picks up the resonance as you have the strings going through this, and it rests onto the bone. And the bone is what really picks up tones as well, and it helps you place the strings. On this guitar, it's not the best construction. I actually filed it down so much, the bone, that it's on the saddle, on the bridge here, the strings. Okay, and so yeah, you have the chamber in the guitar that picks up the sounds and sends it out and projects it. You have good woods. I don't want to get caught in the minutiae of this. I want to just give you a general overview. But this is what you're looking at: history of guitar, modern guitar. It's not a really old instrument. It's not really that new either. I hope that this has helped somewhat. Sorry if I rambled too much. I could ramble a lot more, so I'm having some restraint right now. So thank you for listening. God bless you.